I swear I'm not a One Piece channel. Spoilers ahead if you haven't read the series. If you haven't read the series, I don't know what you're doing here, but you can jump to the end and I'll put a timestamp, wherever on the screen. I will talk a bit more about where I'm reading these books at the end. So if you are interested to read this series yourself, you can find out how I'm reading it over there. So with that said, I'm just gonna jump into the video. So as you can see from the title, I'm gonna be tier ranking again arcs 11 to 18 of One Piece. This is based on the manga. If you haven't seen my earlier video, I ranked arcs 1 to 10. I will show the original ranking. So the ranking hasn't changed, but I have changed the name of the second tier from Sailing the Grand Line to the New World. And I've taken out the 100 million berry bounty tier. In my defense, right, when I first created that ranking list, I was still pretty early on in the series. So I didn't and Luffy's bounty wasn't even that high yet. Like it was not in the 9-digit range. But the video really didn't age well because right after that the bounties jumped into the nine digits. Like every single person that they met had seems to have a 9-digit bounty. So now my tier doesn't have that same impact. Which is why I have changed the tier name. There's no change in how I have ranked the different arcs from 1 to 10. So yeah, I'm just gonna go into arcs 11 to 18 now. Alright, so arc 11 is the Alabasta arc. Well, honestly, I don't even need to say much, but it's just a goated arc. It will go in iconic, the iconic One Piece tier. Okay, on second thought, I do think that I want to move Bharati down to the New World tier. So awesome, great, whatever. Just because looking at what I have put into the iconic tier, I feel like Bharati isn't quite here. So I will just bring it down one notch. Yeah. So moving back into the Alabasta arc. I haven't even said anything and I've already classified it into iconic, but really, can anyone disagree here? So it was my favorite arc at the time, and I think it still is. And I'm pretty far in already. Spoilers, I'm currently at the Dressrosa arc. So Alabasta is still, I think, my favorite out of all of the arcs so far. Or at least it's one of the more memorable ones, or if not for the details but more for the impact. Okay, so what happens in the Alabasta arc? I mean, the Straw Hat crew goes to Alabasta and then they meet Crocodile, and it's kind of the end of that Baroque works arc that started in, was it Whiskey Peak? I think it was Whiskey Peak. In this arc, we kind of see Luffy facing off against, for the first time, one of the warlords. For that alone, it was something quite interesting. And I know with every battle, I feel like, oh man, maybe he won't win, you know. And this was one of one of those battles where I thought, oh, he's done for. And the only reason why he didn't die was actually because of Robin, right? Who eventually joins the crew at the end of this arc. Something about this arc that I also liked was that each of the characters had their own battle. So all of the members in that crew, they had like a 1-to-1 face off against one of the agents from Baroque Works. This was interesting because previously it was really only Luffy, Zoro, and Sanji who were being more proactive in fights, I guess. So Usopp, and then Chopper is new, of course. Usopp and Nami, though, have been a bit more passive, but I think this is the first time that we see them getting into battle and just a sliver of potential of what their characters will shape up to be and how they contribute to the crew in these kinds of situations. Even though they have their own traits apart from that. For example, Nami is the navigator and Chopper is the ship's doctor, right? But even during battle, they have their moments and they have ways in which they can contribute as well. Another notable mention was that we meet Bon Clay for the first time. This is kind of random, but I feel like he turned out to become the first like enemy character that I like. And we do see him again later on. I won't be covering that arc in this video. I didn't like him at first, but he kind of grows on you. I can't explain it. Another thing that I liked about the Alabasta arc, I hate to say it. I hate to say it. It was the Kung Fu Dugongs and Karu. Okay, who doesn't like Karu? It's a giant duck. So what's not to love, man? I think the last one, like, I feel like everyone can agree. I was not spoiled for this arc, so I really didn't know whether Vivi was going to join the crew or not. And I thought, oh, she must be joining, right? Because up until this point, every time we meet kind of a significant character, they kind of join the crew. And in this case, I was expecting like 95%. I thought she was going to join, and when she didn't, honestly, I was kind of shocked. But okay, whatever. I got over it. It led to one of my favorite scenes where the crew is standing in a line and they have to leave. They don't want people to think that she was in cahoots with a pirate crew, but they also want to show a sign of their friendship. I mean, it just looks so powerful, the imagery of it. Yeah. So that's why Alabasta, I think, really deserves to be in the One Piece iconic tier. Okay, moving on. So they continue on their journey. So the next arc is the Jaya arc. It was, well, I mean, it was kind of mid. After the Alabasta arc, I don't know. There was a lot of flashbacks in this arc, which I wasn't a huge fan of. That's just my personal preference. It was quite a short arc, and I understand. I think it was setting up some of the other plot points that will be paid off in the future arcs. So, I mean, the first one is about the existence of Sky Island, right? Skypiea, Skypiea. Actually, I've never heard anyone pronounce this, so I have no idea how it's pronounced. Sky Island. That's the first thing that they're setting up, and then there's also, I think, at the end, I had to check the wiki for this, but because Crocodile was defeated in the last arc, there's this vacancy now in the Seven Warlords, and so there is a scene or there's a chapter where we see, I think, for the first time, the warlords together, and they're trying to figure out, what they're gonna do about that vacant spot. I have to acknowledge, I guess, its importance in the story because it starts to kick off the larger picture, including what's going on with the navy, what's going on with the world government. To be honest, at that point, I was like, yeah, what is this? I don't even care. So I just kind of skipped over it, and I was like, oh, okay, let's keep moving. But now maybe I should go back and reread it because I can't remember the details. And it's starting to become more important. Whoops. So, Jaya, kind of mid, so I think I'm gonna put this in the fair weather tier. Yeah, it was fine. Okay, don't kill me. Next arc, Skypiea arc. I can't pronounce this. Sky Island arc. I have to admit, I did not like this at first. I think it's hard coming out from the Alabasta arc, which I already say it's my favorite, right? One of my favorites. So I think I didn't really like it when I first started reading it, but actually after I completed that arc and we started moving on to some of the other chapters, I still do think of this occasionally. So I think it's not that forgettable in that sense. To give this arc some credit, I think it's one of the first few times I really started to understand the adventure concept of this series. We have been visiting different islands up until this point because we want to pick up new crew members along the way. But at the Sky Island arc, this is where they are on their way to the new world. They are on this adventure. It's a completely different world. Within this arc also, there's like little pieces of information. Since Robin had joined the crew, we get to learn a bit more about like 100-year gap. Was it 100-year gap or 1,000-year gap in the history? And it sets up this mystery of what happened and why is the world the way that it is. In this arc, I mean, the main part of it is the paying off the setup that the Sky Island does actually exist. There's a different people there. There is that story of the people on Sky Island in Shandia, who are the people who were staying on Jaya originally and had been, shot up into the sky by the knock-up stream. So there's that story there. And then we also have a villain, Enel, that lightning dude. Kind of a creepy guy, kind of sinister. Some more notable parts, I think the twist of the upper yard being part of Jaya, that was interesting and also unexpected. So I like that. I think the villain was also well done. I only have one critique about this. At this stage of the series, I think Oda didn't really Oda my friend, but yeah, he didn't really use any drawings of maps, I think, to show the locations of the different characters. If I remember correctly, these maps only come into play more when he goes into the Water 7 arc and onwards, so you can locate where the crew members are. But in this arc, I don't think he used it that much, so it was a bit confusing for me to visualize where the different characters were and what was happening, like what stage everyone was at. Oh, yeah, one other part that I thought was really nice, really touching was when Luffy was trying to ring the bell to prove to everyone that Mont Blanc wasn't crazy and that Sky Island really exists. Okay, so for this one, I'm gonna put it in Sailing the Grand Line tier. Pretty good. Okay, next arc. After they come back down from Sky Island, Long Ring, Long Land arc. The only reason why this isn't going to be in the I Got Lost tier is because it was so ridiculous that I can't help but remember this arc. The main story is about another pirate crew challenging the Straw Hats to a duel. There's a couple of rules and they're like play fighting. It's not really a villain in that sense, but I guess there are some stakes. They could lose their crew members, etc. But I just felt like this was another filler arc lah. I understand that it was being put there partly maybe to give it a change of pace after the slightly more depressing and slightly more serious arc, but I couldn't really take it seriously, which I suppose was the point. So, whatever. I think this is more of a personal preference. Kind of brought back a bit of the fun that wasn't so present in the previous arc. So okay, that's fine. The only notable thing I think in this arc was that they lost Chopper for a second, and I was kind of worried for him. But other than that, nah, it's kind of forgettable. Okay, I will put this in the I Got Lost here, but I didn't actually forget that this existed. I remembered it almost more than some other arcs because of how random it was. Next arc, Water 7. So Water 7 is a city of shipwrights, and in this arc I think the main goal is to find a shipwright, also to repair the Going Merry. So I think they had a setup about Going Merry kind of falling apart in the past few arcs. It's been through a lot. I mean, it got shot up into the sky. So it's desperately in need of repair. So they've stopped by Water 7. It is one of my favorite locations so far. It's kind of like a canal city. So I like that concept, and I liked seeing the backgrounds, concept of the sea train. That was really cool. I personally liked this one just for the setting alone. Looking at kind of the plot points that happened during this arc, the big one I think was the internal fighting between Usopp and Luffy, and this was after they realized, and Luffy made the decision that they were going to leave the Going Merry behind. They were going to get a new ship. I think this is one of the first few times that we see real cracks between the crew. They're not just quarreling, and this is really something that might tear the crew apart. What was cool about this was that we saw Luffy show his leadership. He had to make a difficult decision, kind of against his own beliefs almost, but for the good of his crew and strangely enough for the long term benefit of everyone. And he didn't back down from his decision even after Usopp disagrees with him and decides to leave the crew altogether. In Water 7, we also meet Frankie, who eventually joins the crew as their shipwright. Honestly, I couldn't take him seriously at the beginning. Come on, the guy wears underpants. Like, that's his outfit. But okay, sure. There was also the arc here about CP9. They were trying to go after Robin. I think Robin disappears for a big chunk of this because she is going to be taken away to Enies Lobby, which is the next arc. But honestly, I couldn't really care about CP9. I wasn't that interested in that arc. I mean, it gets more interesting later. But yeah, I wasn't really that interested. It was the other points about Water 7 that captured my attention. With these points, they're not very structured, I'm sorry. But I'm just yapping, okay? I never said that this is gonna be a proper critique. So I think Water 7, I will put it in the New World tier. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. It's my tier ranking, my choice. Okay. Okay, so the next arc is Enies Lobby. I wanted to put this in Sailing the Grand Line tier, like pretty good tier, but I reread the synopsis. I think I have to give it a little bit of a bump up to the New World tier because particularly of the scene where the Straw Hat crew basically declares war on the world government so that they can get Robin back. And that's touching. What can I say? I think in this arc as well, I really started to love Robin more. Previously, I think she was quite quiet. I didn't really know what her intentions were. I didn't really understand her backstory at all. And this is where we learn more about it and we empathize with her and we are starting to get on her side. This is interesting as well because we know her story, but I think at that point maybe Luffy doesn't even know. So it's just his belief that she belongs with them and that they should be in a crew together. Visually, just that image of all of them standing on top of the courthouse, so good. That scene in particular reminds me of some of the earlier arcs like Alabasta when they said goodbye to Vivi. Also in the earliest arc, the Arlong Park one, when the four of them were gonna go beat up Arlong to help Nami. There was also another really great scene which I have seen the anime version of when they had to say goodbye to the Going Merry and that was really sad. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine getting emotional over a ship? Dang. But that's the power of Oda. I know I didn't even talk about CP9, but as I said, really wasn't that interested. So, Enies Lobby, New World tier. Yeah, I think that's fair. So the second last arc that we're going to talk about here, post Enies Lobby, I would have put it in the I Got Lost here. Okay, I really would have. It's like I'm trying to manufacture being critical and stuff, but there's always something interesting about each arc that I can't, in good conscience, put it in the I Got Lost here. Dang. So anyway, what happens here? I think Frankie officially joins the crew. That's the main one. And we get the new ship. I think it was either this volume or some subsequent volume in a different arc where Oda shows drawings of the cross section and of the interiors of the ship, which I love. Oh my gosh, I loved those pictures, loved those drawings. I loved seeing the interior of the ship, which we don't see that often. It's kind of a pity. We spend a lot of time outside the ship, which I know is the point, but I do love like the idea of them being on a ship. They have like a fish tank inside to keep, I don't know, sea beast meat. I should have saved the volume, but I don't know which volume it is where he shared all of those drawings. and I don't know whether you are able to get those drawings anywhere separately. But yeah, I love that. Kind of wish that they had like a slice of life manga. Maybe they have it in the fillers of the anime. I don't know. But yeah, I would have loved to see more of the interior of the Thousand Sunny. Frankie worked really hard on those. Okay, back to arc, right? Post Enies Lobby. We have this big reveal that Garp from the Navy is Luffy's grandfather. I suppose I was spoiled for this because I watched the live action first. And in the live action, they chose to reveal it really early on. Yeah, so in the live action, they had revealed it really early on. I don't know what was the reasoning behind that. I don't know what was the reasoning behind when they revealed it in the manga. Doesn't really matter, but I think in this case, it didn't have that same twist or like shock value for me because I already knew. Other important plot points: Aokiji, he seems to reveal a soft spot. I think he was talking to Robin, and I mean, he let her go, even though he is from the Navy. So I don't really know what's happening here. So the other thing that happens here, they get their new bounties. Poor Chopper, 50 berries. And this is where I realized that the ranking names that I did in my first video wasn't gonna work anymore because 100 million is like nothing compared to his current ranking and like subsequently how fast his bounty is gonna grow. I had to change the ranking names because of this. Last part about post Enies Lobby. So Usopp rejoins the crew. And I think this scene was done really well in the anime. It marked kind of a development and a bit of maturity of the crew. They're still new, but there is this, there was this potential for the crew to fracture, and it kind of had, but they resolved it and ultimately come back stronger, I guess. They have this renewed belief in Luffy and also in themselves that they can continue on this adventure together. So yeah, I think that was an important point. But still, yeah, it was fine for me, I think. It was okay. So I'm gonna put this in the fair weather tier. It was fine. Okay, the last arc that I'm gonna talk about in this video is Thriller Bark. Thriller Bark was interesting to me from an art perspective as somebody who likes to look at the drawings. This was fun for me. It was different, not necessarily different in terms of the art style, but he used a lot more ink here to convey how dark, I guess, Thriller Bark was. And just the overall atmosphere was a lot darker. In one of the SBS that was in the volumes, Ora talked about his thought process when he was drawing this arc, and he said that he wanted to do something scary. It had like Halloween vibes to me. He wanted to do something scary but not too scary, so I think he did pull it off. I didn't necessarily love how it looked, but I appreciate that he was trying something different, and we are exploring, different parts of the world, and of course it's gonna look different. So I like that we had that. I know probably the villain is supposed to stand out to be more, but he did not. I mean, Moria, another warlord here, but he's so dumb. I don't know. He just struck me as kind of like, yeah, I don't really care about this person. I think his power is interesting, but I think in terms of his shape, it kind of reminds me of those Putawong dolls. So there's these, I think these are traditional dolls that can't fall over, and I can't take him seriously because of that. Oh my god, I forgot. Yeah, so this is also where we meet Brooke, the last addition to the crew so far. I didn't really like him at first. I was like, yeah, who's this? Why are we adding a skeleton to the crew? Who cares? I liked him a little bit more when they revealed his backstory, and now I know why. There was someone in my comments saying like that they would kind of rejig the rankings of some of the arcs based on what happens later on. And I think this would apply for the reverse mountain one. Because of Laboon and because of that part of the story, it actually made me like Brook a lot faster. Like, I warmed up to him a lot faster, even though he's cold, because he's a skeleton. Okay. Oh right, forgot to rank it. Yeah, so oh man, so busy yapping. Okay, Thriller Bark. I'm gonna put it in Sailing the Grand Line tier. It was interesting, but it was like, okay. I don't think it had a huge impact. Not that I can remember on the overall story, but it was an interesting world that they were in. So this is where we're at now for this video. I wanted to end it kind of at a natural place, and I think Thriller Bark Saga is kind of a natural stopping point here. So I'm gonna end my video here. Thanks for watching, I guess. I don't really know why anyone would want to watch me yap about this, but sure. I don't mind. Thanks. So now about the part where I talk about where I am reading this book. I have a Singapore library card, and if you also happen to be able to get the Singapore library card, you should be able to access this app called Libby. They have all of the ebook volumes of One Piece. Okay, to be honest, I don't know if they have it up until the latest volume, but as of right now, I have read up to, I am currently at volume 73, and it is available, and they have multiple copies of each volume. So what it looks like, I'll just show you an example. So you'll be able to see the panels here, and then I would just use swipe. So it reads from right to left. You can zoom in and you can see the panels, and if there's a double spread, you can see it on this page like this. Yeah, so that's great. I'll show you like a really nice double spread that I just saw. It's a bit of a spoiler, but yeah. It's so pretty, and like you can sort of see the details here. Look at them as children. So cute. So what's cool about the library version is that the library version is the volumes. If you subscribe to, I think, the official Shonen Jump app, which is fine as well, but apparently you only get the weekly chapters. You don't get like the SBS inside. So that's something fun that I think I get from the volumes. What I like about the SBS is that there is some behind the scenes information that sometimes gets released through there. So I think it's worth it. And it's free. I mean, okay, if you have a Singapore library card, it's free. So for me, it makes sense. Yeah, so that's how I'm reading, and that's how I'm reading them so fast. Okay, so I swear it's not sponsored, but I do love the Libby app. It makes it really easy when I am commuting to and from work, I'm waiting in line or something. It's so easy to just pick it up and read something. So if you like this video, you can click the like button or comment down below if you think I'm an older simp now. Go ahead and unsubscribe while you're at it, because I am not a One Piece channel. I just happen to like reading, and I just happen to be reading One Piece right now. Okay, unsubscribe. If you are interested in reading in general, if you might be interested in reading my blog. Good job! I post more regularly there. I talk about food, books, movies, shows, music, travel, whatever. Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Bye.